Hello and welcome to the HQ Movie Review. I'm Rachel,
I'm Josh.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Brandon.
and today we watch Spider-Man Homecoming.
It's good to be back.
Yeah.
So first things first, this movie is rated TV MALV for language and violence. The violence, understandable. The language was a surprise.
I'm surprised that it's got a TV MA rating at all, just based on the amount of Marvel movies that get aired on TV, and it's not any less aggressive than any of those.
And it's just funny that it's Spider-Man, the ultimate, he's one of the most famous comic books. He's definitely one of the most famous with kids. And his movie is TVMA.
Yeah.
TV Malv.
Was it rated R in the movie theaters?
No.
No, not at all.
Absolutely not.
I didn't think so.
There's no way Disney would release a rated R superhero movie
Yeah, it's definitely got to be just PG-13.
for the mainstream MCU.
I was going to say.
It's got to just be PG-13 for theaters, which should have translated to TV-14, so...
Yeah. Can't wait for that Deadpool third movie.
I caught a little Deadpool reference in Spider-Man today that I had not heard before. When they're in the gym and they're talking about they're talking about all the different superheroes, and she says that she has a little bit of a crush on Spider-Man, and they're like, "Oh, you don't know anything about him. He could be 30 under there." Someone else is like, "Yeah, he could be wearing the mask because he's all burned up."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
I was like, "Wait a second, that's Deadpool."
Oh, that is interesting.
As long as we are on the topic of on their FMK conversation, I just really like that the girl who's you don't know how old he is, he could be 30 under there, was just talking about how she would have sex with Thor, who is 5,000.
But he's not 30.
Yeah, there's 30 is the wrong one.
Maybe there's just an Asgardian exception to the rule.
Once you pass human timelines, you're all good.
I also want to point out that one of the girls said that they would kill the Hulk. And you cannot do that.
Yeah, I would love to see her try.
I don't know if you guys completely grasp the concept of FMK, but okay. Would you rather marry the Hulk?
Depends. Professor Hulk? Maybe.
Professor Hulk doesn't exist yet.
Mark Ruffalo?
Mark Ruffalo, that's Bruce Banner. That's a different story. Mark Ruffalo, sure. The Hulk, nothing in your house is going to be the right size. There's also other issues.
I think there's a lot more pressing issues than house size.
Speaking of pressing issues, let's talk about how this messes up the MCU timeline.
Oh, yeah.
So this is well-treaded territory. The famous 8 years later versus the located in Iron Man 2 thing. I'm never going to get over this weird detail that they just didn't look up what the timeline should be if they wanted that to work out.
I didn't think that was something that we were trying actively to make work out. I thought that was just a fun little fan theory.
Well, because that was the thing Tom Holland said, and the studio backed it up that the kid in Iron Man 2 was Peter Parker, which is fine, except you just need to change that number in the opening sequence of your movie where it says 8 years later, because then it doesn't work out. It's, on the whole, really nothing. It's a non-issue, but also, they put so much planning into the timeline of this franchise, it's weird that they would overlook that.
Well, because this is based on 8 years after the original Avengers movie, correct?
Yeah, it's essentially just, at this point in the timeline, they were still synced up, the movie releases and the in-universe time, so it was 8 years later.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work out in-universe now that they've connected it to a different point.
I see.
So, thoughts on the movie?
I like pretty much every MCU movie, and this is no exception. It's not the best, but I thoroughly enjoyed it every single time I watch it.
I really like this movie, especially with kind of the choices that they made to differentiate it from the other Spider-Man movies, both by us not having to watch Uncle Ben die a third time, and to not hear "with great power comes great responsibility" a third time, and just kind of changing a lot of the like interpersonal relationships that Peter Parker has, so we're not just watching the same story unfold a third time.
True. Brandon?
I think this is a great movie. I honestly think one of the best parts is the sound of this movie, like the sound overall.
Like the sound design or the
Yeah.
musical? Just
Yeah,
the whole
like
thing?
sound design, musical scores, and everything. Just like some of the choices that they made, like in the last battle scene when Peter would definitely not be hearing anything, they have that ringing of the ears and everything. I think that was a really good choice.
Yeah. No, I love this movie. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. He's like my favorite superhero growing up. So I genuinely enjoy all of the Spider-Man movies and all the MCU movies. And like Josh said, this one is no exception.
One thing I will say is love that they put the nerdy and jokey aspects of Spider-Man into the fight scenes, but I felt like it didn't work towards the end when he had one of those moments when the Shocker was fighting him, where he saw the bottom of a bus seat and was like, ew, because there was a bunch of gum on it, but it's also the climax of the movie. So I feel like they shouldn't have been making jokey things there.
No, I really like that. I know that was definitely one of the complaints about the previous two Spider-Man incarnations, is that they did not balance Spider-Man's jokey, quippy side as well as like the comics did. Like Spider-Man 1, he was way too serious, like the original Sam Raimi Spider-Mans. And then in the Mark Webb Spider-Mans, he was like very quippy, but also a lot of people thought he was like, there wasn't enough difference between Peter Parker and Spider-Man. I thought this one balanced it very well. Like the comedy, I did think it was an interesting choice to give him a suit AI, so he had someone to talk to more, because like in the comics, he's always talking to the villains and talking during the fights. And even in Civil War, they mentioned that like he shows up and Sam Wilson's like, hey, there's usually not this much fighting or this much talking in a fight. And so that's generally something Spider-Man's known for.
Something I really like about this movie is that kind of like found footage callback to Civil War, where we've got his like cell phone like point of view, because when we see Civil War, he just kind of shows up and that's all we get to introduce Spider-Man. And so this is the Peter Parker side of like, oh man, I'm doing this for the first time and I'm fighting Captain America.
Yeah, no, that was great. He shows up, he's in Germany, he doesn't know why he's there. He brings his like rinky-dink pajama suit and doesn't realize that there's a new suit there for him to wear. It's real good.
And just the fact that he was told nothing about what was going on just kind of puts in perspective kind of what he's doing in Civil War, where he kind of just shows up and he doesn't know what's going on. He's kind of just doing what kind of Tony Stark's telling him to do.
Yeah, Mr. Stark told me that I needed to come here and stop you, and that's as much information as I needed.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't care if you're other superheroes as well. I was told I need to do what I can to stop you, so I'm gonna do that. Like, this is clearly before he's like thinking for himself at all. He's just, I can do super things. I've been told to do super things against you guys.
And he also has no scale for what other superheroes can do. Like, he's boasting later. He's like, yeah, well, I fought Captain America. And Tony's like, yeah, no, if Captain America really wanted to lay you out, he would have laid you out immediately. He was absolutely pulling his punches. Everyone there was.
You fought Captain America, but Captain America did not fight you.
Yeah.
I do have to say, I feel like Spider-Man really pulled the punches of Bucky in that movie, though.
Yeah, it freaked Bucky out when he caught his punch. That was a good joke. I'm sorry no one laughed.
I was just going to take it, but...
So, I really like all the little details they put in. There's so many like small details in this movie that make a lot of sense. Like one of the first details we see is at the end of the opening sequence. They're still in the car. Tony is talking to Peter about like how he can keep the suit, and Happy gets out and he's like struggling to take this suitcase out of the trunk. He has both hands on it. He's like really, really trying to lift this thing. And then at the end of that scene, Peter picks up with one hand, just walks inside like it's nothing. So that's a great demonstration of his super strength. Josh, you mentioned while we were watching the movie all like the scrapes on the wall where he's constantly picking up the lockers to get his stuff that he hid under them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just a lot of small details like that that are really nice touches.
Even when they do the Captain America fitness test thing, and he's just like not breaking a sweat, not catching his breath, just up and down on the sit-ups to the point that even the gym teacher's like, yeah, you're doing great, and that's not what you're kind of expecting to pull.
Yeah, he gets distracted by the conversation and he just starts doing sit-ups like it's nothing. And he's like, oh, I have to pretend this is hard. It's real good.
I also like the detail that he makes his web fluid in chemistry class just stealing the school supplies.
Yeah, because that's always one of the things that's weird that you never really think about is like, hey, this high school kid makes his own web shooters, and like, yeah, Peter Parker is like certifiably one of the smartest people in like the Marvel universe and the comics and the MCU, and he's like a technical genius. He can like create his own web fluid, and it's really weird that he's able to do this, and it's a really good fix that the MCU came up with. The first movie in like Sam Raimi movies, he doesn't have to make it because it's organic webs, but they never really explain where a suit comes from, and it's kind of the same thing with the Mark Webb movies. We see him like making the web shooters, but it's never really explained how he gets this technology or like gets any of the stuff to do this. And his suit's a little bit more explained, like it was like, I think like a scuba suit or something that he sewed together. But it makes a lot of sense here that it's like, oh no, he has to get these chemicals from school because he can't just access these things as a high school student.
He's just asking Aunt May to buy these chemicals, and she just doesn't ask questions.
Yeah. Don't worry, it's for the internship. Don't worry about it.
There is definitely like a lot of freedom that comes from putting Spider-Man into the MCU to just kind of use the resources that are already there, like Tony Stark to provide the suit and the general understanding of like, oh yeah, superheroes are an active part of society and we see them all the time, to kind of get through to like the meat and potatoes of a Spider-Man story without having to lay down the world building and groundwork of creating Spider-Man.
Yeah, I will agree. That was definitely one of the stronger parts of bringing him back to the MCU, or bringing him into the MCU, is that we no longer have to establish, hey, he's going to be the first and only superhero in New York City or in the world. It's no, there's superheroes exist. He's just a new one. We don't have to go over that again.
And also just like does a great job of something that I think that a lot of Marvel movies, the deeper post Avengers, we get into the Marvel Cinematic Universe of, well, while this is going on, where's Thor? Where's Iron Man? Where's Captain America? And Iron Man swooping in to kind of save Peter in a couple different spots and have the B plot of moving the Avengers up campus to kind of to root it more into a world where these other people are involved, because New York is a hotbed for superheroes. So having some Spider-Man be a standalone person in the story just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Can we take a moment to talk about how Tony Stark brings Spider-Man, and he kind of sets him up. He's like, hey, cool, you're gonna be like a superhero. I need you to help me out with the Civil War thing. And then he just ditches him. He's like, happy you're in charge of him. Whatever, he's going to do his own thing. And he does not give any oversight or training or any kind of assistance to him.
Yeah.
In any way. And then when Spider-Man inevitably starts fucking things up, he comes in and just reprimands him. And then takes the suit away, which I do understand where he's coming from. In that Tony Stark shows up and he's like, hey, yeah, I took a chance on you. and this isn't working out. I need the suit back, right? I get that. Shouldn't have gotten to that point because Tony, I'm sorry, but you're the one who instigated all this.
Absolutely. Yeah, like Tony was like, "Oh yeah, I've seen the YouTube videos of this kid doing superhero stuff. I'm going to help him out." So he gives him the suit, and then he like does nothing else. Like there's all these training wheels protocols, and clearly there's something like the suit was going to unlock more stuff for him once he completed his training. But there was no training.
Yeah, there's no training. It's like you gave him training wheels protocols, but no training to ever unlock them. Like even when he first like has the suit unlocked for him, right? And the suit starts telling him, it's like, "Congratulations on unlocking it." It's like, did Tony ever plan on like giving him any kind of training and then saying, "All right, here you go, training wheels off," and then having that message play?
Yeah, because 2 months pass and Tony doesn't, like, no one talks to him for 2 months. But the way that Karen talks, it sounds like he should have been slowly unlocking things and learning about them, like, one at a time. But he shows up and he has, like, 500 web combinations that he knows nothing about. It's like, all right, well, maybe actually start unlocking them and letting him learn about them instead of just ghosting him for 2 months.
Yeah. Like, he just kind of drops the ball completely and expects Happy to just kind of pick it up. But that's not Happy's job.
Which is funny because clearly Happy was, like, giving those messages to Tony. Like, Tony knew about, like, giving the old lady directions and buying a churro and stuff.
Yeah, like he brings that up in the first conversation that he's like, yeah, just do more like neighborhood stuff, like the churro lady. So I mean, he's definitely like keeping tabs, and Happy's passing along all of this stuff that he's ghosting Peter on.
There's zero feedback is the issue.
Yeah. Like, they're just not doing a good job of really kind of cultivating him as a new superhero, right? They're just kind of left him to his own devices and then try to reprimand him when stuff starts going wrong. But it's like, hey, no, this is ultimately kind of your fault.
Yeah.
I almost want to just excuse it as maybe there was some kind of bigger plan to train Peter up post Civil War, but because Civil War ended so traumatically that maybe it just got backburnered or something like that. And that's,
Yeah.
I know I'm making a lot of leaps and jumping through a lot of hoops to say that, but I definitely don't think that Civil War ended the way that Tony anticipated.
That's fair.
And so there was probably a lot of concern about, one, Peter getting involved in something that would violate the Sokovia Accords at that stage. And just two, like, there might have just been, bigger fish to fry than training Peter up immediately following the war criminal branding and fugitive turning of half of the Avengers.
Counterpoint. When we first see Tony in this movie, he's on vacation.
That is also
Does
true.
not really seem like he was really kind of busy a whole lot.
He was busy drinking and driving. Don't think I missed that, Tony.
Yeah, so like I see your point, and I think it would be valid if we didn't have that, very, obvious clip of Tony just not being busy.
Self-care comes in many different forms, Josh.
You know what? That's fair. But counterpoint to that counterpoint, he's now let a superhero loose that doesn't know what to do.
To be fair, he was doing friendly neighborhood Spider-Man things before he got the suit. I think Tony was just like, yeah, let's keep doing the same things.
I think there's also just generally a lot of red flags involved in training a 15-year-old to become a weapon in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Tony, hey, I know you like designing suits and stuff. Why are you giving a 15-year-old in insta-kill mode?
It was locked. He unlocked that
that was-
himself.
That was under training wheels. He would have. That's probably the last thing to unlock.
I'm just saying, even if it was something he was going to unlock later, why are you giving this to someone?
It wasn't even password protected. They just had to go into the code of the suit and then just flip a switch in there.
Yeah.
You don't know how much hacking Ned did before they got to that point.
Yeah, you don't know what Ned can do.
He's the guy in the chair.
I feel like Tony Stark can do more than Ned could.
I mean, look, every form of security in this movie was just terrible. Like for one thing, hacking the suit was as simple as plugging a USB cord into your laptop and turning a switch on
I
or
think
off.
that was more of an issue of trust. Tony was like, he's probably not gonna hack the suit. I trust him.
And then the quote, most secure facility in the world was hacked with a TI-84 and 240 something attempts.
And a multi-million-dollar suit with an AI in it. Also, to be fair, I don't think he actually did unlock that. Karen said, like right at the beginning, hey, vault's gonna automatically unlock in the morning. And it was morning when he got out. So I think he was on attempt like 204 or whatever. And he just ran out of time.
It just opened on its own.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
then there was like a truck leaving too, so
Yeah, that's fair. Although, if it was, I would have expected, like, people on the other side to be there, you know, as some kind of security force.
Well, no one's expecting someone to be inside the containment.
Well, yeah,
unit.
but the door to this secure containment facility is going to open at a set time.
yeah.
If it comes to that time and no one's there, why would it open?
there could
what-
have been people on the ground.
They just didn't do anything about the fact that Spider-Man just jumped out.
To be fair, it is a well documented fact that humans rarely look above like the 45-degree angle, and he kept to the ceiling. So like, if they were standing directly under him, no one would have looked up. They would have gone inside and found a bunch of spider webs and like, hey, something's wrong here. But he was already gone.
I'd like to know why we were just now transporting Ultron's head
Oh,
to
yeah.
the secure facility.
Well, no, because it was in the secure facility of the Avengers Tower, and they're just moving to a new place.
I'll give that to you, but I also don't know why the Avengers were just hanging out with Ultron's head.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the last place that should be,
Okay,
since
but-
they're the ones that made it.
But like Vision, like I feel like keeping it near Vision was the smartest thing to do.
I don't know, Vision's gonna start talking to it and get some ideas.
Yeah, I don't really know why that was there. I feel like it was more of just like a, hey, here's
a fun Easter
here's
egg.
a fun little thing.
A very concerning Easter egg. That one had its eyes were still glowing. Also, they established in that movie that the Ultron head with the red eyes is the main Ultron. So, do we just have did Ultron survive? Is he just sitting there?
Yeah. They disconnected his Wi-Fi card.
Of course.
So, IMDb fact time. We mentioned that Tony probably didn't handle the raising of a 14-year-old superhero very well. Originally, 15-year-old superhero. Originally, Nick Fury was supposed to be his mentor for this movie, but they ended up pushing that back to the Spider-Man second movie. Far From Home?
Interesting.
Far From Home.
Yeah, that makes sense. In the comics, Nick Fury is his mentor a lot. Like it's more so the Ultimate Comics, but yeah, there's a very strong like Nick Fury, Peter Parker like mentorship that happens.
I do feel like Nick Fury did a little bit better of a job than Tony did.
He was a lot more hands-on, but he also has had a couple other tries at raising superheroes up.
Fair.
I mean, spoiler alert: Nick Fury wasn't even on the planet. He was the most hands off you could possibly be. He was in space.
It wasn't even him.
I kind of like that we had the Iron Man mentorship, though. Just especially going forward, spoilers to the rest of the MCU, but going forward into Infinity War, I think that it made a much stronger kind of emotional payoff.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, yeah, because not only was it an emotional payoff, but it also helped to build Iron Man's character.
Yeah, it was good for both of their arcs.
Like it having a son type figure in Tony's life.
A youthful ward.
Yeah, like having that kind of person that he's responsible for really kind of helped set everything in place for him, and all of his motivations in Endgame with his daughter, right? Because he just lost his son, right?
Yeah.
He does not want that to happen. Like that was his like one of his major driving forces in Endgame, and really one of the major like reasons why his character felt so real and complete by the end of his story arc was he's gone through so much, and a lot of it was growth because of Peter.
Yeah. I hate to be the one to do this, sort of. But there is a really good Star Wars parallel for this. And it's that the whole premise behind Ahsoka Tano being introduced into the Clone Wars was that Yoda thought giving Anakin Skywalker, who was like brash and impulsive, someone he had to take care of would help mature him and help him become like a better Jedi.
Yeah, it didn't work in Star Wars though, did it? Now
there are
there's
reasons
just
for
two
that.
of them.
So wait, who's Yoda in this scenario though?
Fate, the spider? I don't know.
Tony's conscience,
Tony's
Nick
conscience.
Fury?
Well, it wasn't Nick Fury's idea, but
YouTube for introducing them.
it was YouTube.
Yoda tube. Anyway,
Good.
but continuing past that, like we have, first of all, it's the crazy emotional impact of losing Peter in Infinity War, and then everything that Josh you just said about Endgame, and then when Tony dies at the end of Endgame, and you go into Spider-Man: Far From Home, and Peter suddenly has to deal with this immense like responsibility that's fallen on him of like, everyone kind of expects me to be the next Iron Man because he was mentoring me, and I don't know how to be that or how to live up to that, and I'm still like reeling from this loss, and there's so much expectation to live up to. So it just, I think that connection really just developed both of them in such a meaningful way.
Yeah. And also, speaking of Far From Home, and a lot of things in this movie, this is a very good way to do the Uncle Ben story without Uncle Ben. Like, they get really, like, extremely close to mentioning Uncle Ben so many times in this movie, and they pull back from it, and I think that's a little bit because they're trying to overcorrect for, hey, we don't want to do 3 Spider-Man origin stories in a single decade, and that's fair. In a single, like, 10-year span. I think
Yeah.
maybe just over 10 years. But the point being, everyone knows the Spider-Man origin story. We don't want to Batman this. Like every single Batman movie, like all of them. we
Even Joker.
Yeah, even the Joker movie. We see the Waynes go into crime alley. We see the pearls drop and scatter, the gunshot. I am so sick of seeing Thomas and Martha Wayne get shot. So on the one, I'm glad that they got around it. I do kind of wish they would have mentioned Ben. They get really close a couple times, and I think it would have been all right just to mention Uncle Ben by name. Like clearly, like this is why Aunt May is like freaking out when like he loses the suit and he doesn't answer his phone, and she's like, "Hey, you've been sneaking out and you were missing all day, and I called several people and no one knew where you were." Like clearly, hey, this has happened to her before. It's the main reason why he doesn't want to tell her that he's in danger all the time. But they get real close to mentioning Uncle Ben, and they never do. And I think having the Tony connection in Far From Home is a good way to do that without having to introduce Uncle Ben and kill him off again. It's like, hey, he had a mentor father figure who died, and maybe he feels like he could have done more, and now he feels like he has to step up into more responsibility and power, and you get it from there. So,
Yeah.
speaking of Batman, actually,
Bringing 2 franchises into this talk.
Yeah, well, this one I actually had in my notes is that there is the Michael Keaton who played Batman before. They do have the really quick Batman reference in his first appearance to Peter as the Vulture, when he grabs him and flies up like real high and then is forced to drop him. For like a split second, the Vulture wings are silhouetted in front of the moon, and it makes the Batman symbol. And I thought that was real nice.
Is that even legal?
That's how they do it so quick that it's really hard to notice, and I think that's why it's okay.
That's why it's not in the IMDb fun facts.
I
Yeah,
was gonna say I
It's like
didn't
we
see
did
that.
it. We cannot tell anyone that we did it.
yeah, but it's definitely hey, look, we got this was Batman. It's Michael Keaton. Now he's the Vulture.
I did read in the IMDb facts that the backup, if Michael Keaton did not take the job as the Vulture, was Mark Hamill.
Oh, he's real good at playing villains.
I would have slapped.
Oh, that would have been really good.
Yeah, Michael Keaton does a great job, but when you can get Mark Hamill, I think Mark Hamill's great. He's a treasure. He's good in like everything I think I've seen him in, aside from the Star Wars Holiday Special. That's no one was good in that. That's okay.
Yeah, a lot of people say that just doesn't exist.
Oh, but it's so good though. By which I mean it's terrible but fun to watch. That was Boba Fett's first speaking line. The gun from The Mandalorian, like his cool rifle, comes from that movie. They gave Chewbacca's dad porn in the middle of the living room.
I still have not seen the Christmas special.
We gotta watch it.
That'll be a later episode.
Oh boy.
Another casting choice that they almost made. One of the backups for Peter Parker was the son of Poseidon himself, Logan Lerman.
I think Logan Lerman could have done it. I think that Tom Holland is the better choice out of the two because Logan Lerman's a little bit, I think, too old for the Peter Parker that we have in the MCU. But I would have trusted him with it. He's done some good stuff recently.
Honestly, I think Tom Holland is like one of the most perfect choices for Peter Parker.
Definitely though.
Just because like even his just outside of character personality just vibes so well with Peter's. Like I love the fact that he cannot keep a secret.
It's gotten so bad that they've worked it into their marketing.
Like that is just one of my favorite parts about the Tom Holland Spider-Man is just that a lot of other actors just have to work around the fact that he's going to just give up every secret.
Plus, he has like amazing baby face. It's like, oh yeah, I believe this guy's in high school.
Yeah.
The video of him showing everyone the Avengers Endgame poster and then flipping it around to see the confidential do not distribute
Classic.
never stops being funny.
Exactly. That right there is one of my favorite reasons why Tom Holland is, my favorite Spider-Man.
Even when they actually officially put out the No Way Home like title announcement, one of the jokes in that video was that like, hey, why won't they tell us what it is? And his two co-stars look at him like, yeah, they're not gonna tell you. We know why they didn't tell you what the title was. It's great. So I'd like to talk about Aaron Davis.
Okay.
Aaron Davis?
Whomst?
You may know him as, if you've seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the Prowler, who is Miles Morales' uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah, shows up in this movie as Childish Gambino, everyone's favorite, Donald Glover.
Oh,
gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, so do you guys know the wild history about how Donald Glover got into this movie as Aaron Davis?
Oh yes, I never made the Aaron Davis connection, but I know all the the Spider-Man tea.
So
Yeah.
it starts with a little show called Community.
Yep.
In a single episode of Community, in really kind of a throwaway shot, we see his character Troy get out of bed wearing Spider-Man pajamas, and like Donald Glover being a huge nerd himself, This was right around the time where they were rebooting the Spider-Man franchise again, as they are wont to do. And so there was a huge push for Donald Glover to be Spider-Man, and he made like a tweet about it, and it like blew up, and it caused this huge like conflagration on Twitter about like he can't be Spider-Man, he's not like Spider-Man's not black, and it's like there's people screaming everywhere. Twitter was on fire. Anyway, immediately after that, or not immediately after that, but shortly after that, in the Ultimate comic books, Spider-Man Peter Parker dies. Completely unrelated. But the writer for the Ultimate books decides, hey, what if we introduce... This is an alternate universe. Peter Parker in the main comics universe, he's still fine. What if we take this universe and we gave them a black Spider-Man? And so Miles Morales is born. Well, he's born several years prior in the comic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. Miles Morales comes into the picture and takes over as Spider-Man.
So Miles Morales as a character didn't exist until after the whole Donald Glover thing?
Yeah, he exists specifically because there was this huge push for Donald Glover to become the next Spider-Man.
Wow, I did not realize that. I thought like Miles Morales as a character existed before that.
No, he is relatively very recent. It's very new.
Ah.
And so Miles Morales becomes a thing. He takes over as Spider-Man, and he becomes fairly popular. So popular, in fact, that tying it back to this movie, a lot of the traits in Peter Parker in this movie are actually kind of stolen from Miles Morales. Like Ned as a character is a character in the comics, but he's completely different. He's one of Spider-Man's enemies. He's the Hobgoblin. Ned here is replacing Miles Morales' friend and roommate Genki, who is his like chubby friend who is the guy in the chair, and he helps him. He like shares a secret and all that stuff. A lot of the stuff of Peter's mannerisms and being in school come from Miles, just because Miles is in middle school in the comics, whereas at this point, Peter Parker in the main series has been an adult for a very long time. Like, he hasn't been in high school in like 30 years. Not in comics, but like out of comics.
Yeah.
Timelines in comics don't make sense. But, so, Miles Morales comes into the picture. Donald Glover is not made the new Spider-Man. He does voice Miles in some cartoons, like in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. But then flash forward to here, and we need a character for Aaron Davis, because we'd like to, tease at the existence of Miles Morales in the MCU. And who do we pick but Donald Glover? So he has gone from wearing a Spider-Man t-shirt in a completely unrelated TV show to being the ultimate Spider-Man's uncle.
I do have to say, Jack, you just covered like 20 different IMDb trivia facts.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm honestly proud of you for knowing that many of the IMDb trivia facts.
Jack just gave us an entire history lesson, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, that's great.
I'd love to talk more about in comic book adult Peter Parker, because it is one of my favorite things. Because my favorite comic book superhero team is the Young Avengers, which is also a fairly recent development, but one of the best exchanges is in the introductory series for the Young Avengers. There's this shot of Peter Parker and like Captain America and like a couple other Avengers, and they're talking about the Young Avengers, and like it's just not safe for like these teenagers to be running around, and Peter goes like, I mean, I was a teenage superhero and I turned out great, and like nobody says a word. He's like, arguably.
It's really funny that you mentioned that, because I think one of the things is that when Spider-Man joins the Avengers, none of them really know how old he is, because like he goes by Spider-Man, not Spider-Boy, and so really the Avengers just assume he's like a short adult. None of them really know he's 15 when he starts. So when he eventually does join the Avengers, they don't understand that he was also a teen superhero. Like a lot of them don't. So that's also just a funny thing.
They would have to like see him out of costume and then kind of put the two and two together.
Yeah.
I really like the kind of throwaway line at the end of the movie where they're talking about Peter joining the Avengers, and he's like, yeah, you're gonna room next to Vision, and my head just went through all of these scenarios of like the alternate timeline where he does join the Avengers and Vision has to deal with this chaotic like question asking teenager being right next door to him just like all the time with his like limitless knowledge.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
There was also the line about Vision not being great with doors, which is
Yeah.
just a fun callback to Vision constantly walking through Wanda's wall. Like, there's a part of me that would have really liked to see, like, Peter Parker drops out of Midtown High, moves into the Avengers campus, and then is, I guess, homeschooled by Tony Stark for the rest of his high school education.
Would he have to finish his high school education?
I mean, probably not. I feel like they
should,
would
though.
want him to have like a GED or something.
He should have some kind of education, though. That's kind of critical to the like his role. You know, like being good with tech and stuff.
And as we've established by Falcon and the Winter Soldier, being Avenger does not pay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this kid would have just been like living in free housing. Like, I don't think he would have been uneducated because he probably would have had like the Hulk eventually when he returned. Because I think at this point he's still hanging out in the Ragnarok
Oh yeah.
arena. But just like it wouldn't have been a high school education and he wouldn't have had any friends his own age. And both of those things are, I think, important. But he would have been in a lab with unlimited resources, learning directly from probably the Vision and definitely Tony and eventually Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
You say learning from Tony. It would not have been from Tony. Tony absolutely would have written an AI program to teach him.
Yeah, he would have been learning from Karen probably.
It would not have been from Tony. Tony's not going to do that. As evidence from this movie.
Didn't Karen have training courses programmed into her?
As we know, she had at least had review courses.
Yeah, but I think that was just Spider-Man stuff. She'd
Yeah,
need an upgrade for just general education things.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Tony's going to teach Peter AP Lit, but I think that Tony and Peter are going to be like in the lab at the same time working on technology.
And Tony did say he had like an in at MIT, so maybe he would just be like, all right, Peter, you're going to be an Avenger, and also you're going to take, college courses. You're smart, you can do it.
But Mr. Stark, I'm 15 years old. I'm just a kid.
I think Tony graduated when he was like 8 or whatever, so
Yeah, I don't think Tony has a good grasp on what like a well-rounded child needs.
Tony doesn't understand childhood? What?
This is news.
Speaking of Tony's plan for Peter becoming an Avenger, was he going to have him sign the Sokovia Accords?
I would think so.
Like, he had a whole press conference set up to reveal, hey, this is Peter Parker, the new Spider-Man. I guess you'd need to sign those.
The YouTube sensation joining the Avengers.
Hey, my name's Peter Parker. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about how you make your own web fluid.
The press conference was actually just him signing the Sokovia Accords.
Yeah, it's okay. We're not breaking the law.
He's an Avenger. See this right here, the paperwork.
Where it says Spider-Man. His legal signature.
Yeah.
Peter's not 18. Like, is he legally allowed to sign the Sokovia Accords, or does Aunt May need to come by?
Yeah, that's also the thing. Tony Stark was gonna like have this teenager move out of his aunt's apartment and like become an Avenger and start working for him, and she didn't know he was even Spider-Man until the very last scene of the movie.
I mean, I feel like if he became an Avenger, they'd have to tell Aunt May at that point.
I feel like the press conference would tell Aunt May at that point.
Well, you can have the press conference without revealing that he's Peter Parker.
You can just say, hey, this is
it's like-
Spider-Man. He's an Avenger.
Which comic Civil War you absolutely could not have. Actually, in the comics in Civil War, one of the big moments was Spider-Man revealing that he was Peter Parker.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up, is that we almost got like Spider-Man in the Iron Spider suit revealing to everyone he's Peter Parker, or probably not doing that in the movie, but still, like a very nice recreation of, hey, we've got Spider-Man, we have press conference, we have Iron Spider suit.
Because that was a big aspect of like the divide in Civil War in the comics, was that like you had to like reveal your identity. for like transparency and to be in the public eye. And that was a lot of people were just like, we don't need to be put on blast like this. Like, our identities are secret for a reason.
And we saw, because it led to the worst storyline in Spider-Man history.
Was that not part of the
Sokovia.
Sokovia Accords that you need to reveal your identity?
Sokovia Accords is mostly they were just going to register you with like the UN, and the UN could deploy you or do whatever. I don't think
But
it was
that
like
they needed to know your identity, right?
yeah, but I don't think it was like publicly registered. I think like
okay.
if Spider-Man was like, "Hey, my identity is a secret," the UN would have been like, "All right, cool. We know who you are, but we're not going to tell everyone. You're just Spider-Man and you work for us."
Gotcha.
It was the other thing is that at that point in the MCU, no one's really had a secret identity. Like, if you think about it, everyone's identity has been public for a while. I think Natasha and Clint were the only ones who really had secret identities because of Shield,
Yeah.
and then we kind of leaked all that with Hydra and everything.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Tony Stark had about, I don't know, 5 minutes.
It was a solid like 3 days.
And then he just like, forget it. Everyone, I'm Iron Man.
Yeah.
Did Steve Rogers have his identity a secret?
No, he was publicly Captain Rogers.
Yeah.
He was out there selling war bonds.
He was a comic book.
I just didn't remember if he was doing all of that as just Captain America or if they were like, hey, this is Captain Steve Rogers.
He was publicly Captain Steve Rogers, Captain America.
I think the only thing that wasn't public was the fact that he was a super soldier.
I'm not sure, actually.
I think they just made him like a promotional thing. I don't think being super soldier was part of that.
That might be true. I don't remember if they really like went into that in the movie.
That might have been somewhere in Falcon and the Winter Soldier with the whole storyline of
Yeah, I mean,
Isaiah.
definitely after, the freeze, they're like, oh, no, he's a superhero. He is enhanced. But, like, during the war, I can see both ways. Like, hey, this guy is just a really good soldier, and we have him as Captain America, and we have to keep it a secret. But I can also see it as, hey, we're just going to tell everyone everything. Because it's the 20s, and we're bad at stuff. Oh, speaking of Captain America, there's a real nice connection with the principal. If you notice, he's the same actor as one of the Howling Commandos from Captain America: The First Avenger.
Oh yeah, and he has like a bunch of like photos and like medals and memorabilia
Okay, yeah.
in the like
Yeah,
back of his office.
Yeah.
I noticed that. I was like, oh, he must have been like military before. That makes sense now.
Yeah, no, that canonically that is his grandfather. So he's the grandson of the Howling Commando.
Oh, okay. Neat.
There was an inconsistency that I found. Now, this was not part of the IMDb facts. This I found on Reddit, but it is correct. The Death Star that they build,
Uh-huh.
the reason it's so, what's the word I'm thinking of? Not enticing, exciting. Yeah, the reason it's so exciting for Peter that Ned got this one is that this Death Star is a discontinued version. So they had to buy it off of someone that already had it.
Okay.
And Ned mentions the piece count, which he gets correct. But the thing they got wrong was the Palpatine figure that Ned has is from a different set and was not the same Palpatine figure that was part of that specific set.
That is wild. I would not have guessed that was the inconsistency there.
Yeah,
'Cause-
definitely not.
When I was looking for this, I wanted to check the piece count, but they got it correct and they just messed up which Palpatine figure they had.
Yeah.
But they went so far as to get 7 different versions of a discontinued Death Star set so that they could drop it for different takes.
Yeah, I'd really suck having to rebuild that every take otherwise.
Yeah.
I will say it was a nice touch having, like, 'cause in that conversation earlier, Peter kind of zones out, so he doesn't hear Ned saying that he's going to come over. But if you listen, you can still hear Ned clearly saying, hey, I'm going to, like, set up the skeleton at my place and then go to your house or your apartment, and, like, we can finish it together. And Peter's not listening at this point, but it perfectly sets up that Peter comes in later and doesn't realize Ned's in his room because he wasn't listening.
Yeah, I actually heard that this time around. I was listening for it, and yeah, you can hear it. It's not very loud, because as Brandon mentioned earlier on in this podcast, the sound design was very well done in this movie, and you can kind of hear the volume of Ned speaking start to diminish as his attention.
Peter just tones him out.
The real reason why we can't have Mark Hamill as the Vulture is because there's already too many Star Wars references in the Peter Parker cinematic universe. Because going back Civil War, he's like, hey, you guys seen that really old movie Empire Strikes Back? And he does the tangle up the legs trick. And then this one, they're building the Death Star. You can't have Luke Skywalker be the villain of your movie.
What, they have Mace Windu?
Yeah. We don't get Mace Windu. Mace Windu is the Star Wars reference for the next one.
Fair. I really want to see Star Wars in the MCU because, it can't be Samuel L. Jackson because he's a spy. So what does Mace Windu look like?
No, canonically, Nick Fury just played Mace Windu in that movie.
I don't know how I'd feel about that.
Mace Windu just has an eye patch.
It's really too bad Sam Wilson wasn't here.
Yeah. Especially at the climactic scene where they're chasing this plane, and it's like, hey, it'd be real great to have the one superhero that's has wings too.
Yeah, he's almost a better Vulture, except for the fact that he doesn't have the little foot claws to grab things.
But now he has a shield.
He does have a shield now.
I don't think that Anthony Mackie and Tom Holland are allowed to be on set together.
Fair.
Have you seen the way that he and Sebastian Stan bully them? They go back and forth so much.
Oh no, it's great. I can't wait for that Avengers movie when Spider-Man comes in and now Sam Wilson's Captain America and they have to be on the same team. I can't. I'm so excited for when that inevitably happens. I need it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's to go ahead and get not theatrical, but movie theory on you. It's a very common trope among superhero movies, especially that the main villain, at least the first main villain, is a reflection of the hero, and so or not the first always, but definitely usually it's some reflection of the hero. So Spider-Man is reflected by Venom, Iron Man versus the Ironmonger, Black Panther versus Killmonger, where they're both in Black Panther suits. It's very common, and so it's nice that while Sam Wilson is actually the perfect foil for the Vulture power set wise, as men in wingsuits, the Vulture is a good foil for Peter Parker here because they're both kind of street level guys. The Vulture spells it out in the movie. It's hey, you and me, we both have to work hard, while the people at the top, they don't care about us and they just have everything easy. And so the Vulture is very much a dark parallel of Peter, who he used his abilities to go rogue, whereas Peter stays on the hero path. So he's a foil that way, but he's not a foil power set wise, because it is just super common that the final fight is, hey, it's the hero versus the evil version of them. So that's nice.
Yeah.
I also really like that they paid off the joke of the Vulture not remembering his name when he starts to take Liz out on a date, and then in the final fight he calls him Pedro. He just actually forgot his name.
Which is great because his whole thing was that he's I know your secret identity, and then it was so unimportant to him that he couldn't even remember what it was.
That's the real reason he didn't sell him out to Matt Gargan.
He didn't know the actual name.
It's something with a P.
Patrick. Oh no.
Penny Parker.
Nope, wrong universe.
We don't know that yet.
I mean, It's absolutely a different universe.
It's definitely not the MCU.
I mean, I don't know. Let's see what happens in Spider-Man No Way Home. We've got a lot of rumors. We got a lot of
unconfirmed Spider-Man.
unconfirmed Spider-Man, a lot of confusing leaks.
Yeah, which actually brings me very nicely to the next thing I wanted to talk about is the possibility of a Sinister Six, because this movie alone did a lot to set up a lot of Spider-Man villains.
Oh yeah.
Like, not counting things that Sony is doing in separate, like, standalone movies. In this movie alone, we have the Vulture, 2 different Shockers, and the Scorpion, which is Matt Gargan, the guy with the scorpion neck tattoo, is...
Yeah, at the very end.
Yeah, he is, in fact, the Scorpion.
You know, I wasn't quite sure about that one.
Yeah.
I thought maybe that might be a Doc Ock.
Listen, I mean, if you don't know who Matt Gargan is, he's just a guy with a scorpion neck tattoo. He is also missing, in this movie at least, the other crucial component of his backstory, which is the existence of J. Jonah Jameson.
Yep. And also that apparently he was put in jail already by Spider-Man.
I mean, that's not necessarily... I think that's actually a part of it, is that he was a criminal before. I don't remember the specifics of his origin in the comics.
But that specifically Spider-Man is the reason he's in jail.
It could be.
No, he said that.
He did say that
Oh, well, yeah, in this movie, yes.
in this movie.
Obviously, yeah, he was in the fight. We saw that. I was talking about, like, in the comics, the reason, like, he's a criminal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because, like, the reason he becomes a Scorpion is that J. Jonah Jameson tries to fund his own, like, anti-Spider-Man superhero. So he gives this guy Scorpion powers because scorpions are natural predators to spiders. And he thinks this is a good idea. And it's not. But, and then in Far From Home, we have Mysterio, who takes the stage and then is shot. But, you know, we still have all the effects tech and some of his team is still alive. So there's a chance...
Someone else takes up the mantle.
Yeah, that someone else can just be Mysterio.
Yeah.
So that's 4 there. And then we have confirmed that Doc Ock and Electro are going to be in the new not out yet Spider-Man movie, No Way Home, but with very confusing, like they're the same ones they are from the other movies.
Yeah, oh man, because I think we've heard like a couple conflicting things, at least about Electro, or they're like, he's gonna be blue again, he's not gonna be blue
He's gonna
again.
be yellow, he's gonna be blue. It's definitely Jamie Foxx, but other than that, who knows? It's a mystery.
I really hope that it's just like, yeah, there's a lot of different universes clashing here, and that's what's going on. Is that there's actually a blue one and there's a yellow one, both played by the same person?
Let's not do that.
I have absolutely zero complaints with just having a live action Spider-Verse.
No, yeah, that's great. We can do that.
Yeah.
If you bring in the other Spider-Man, the live action Spider-Man.
Hear me out. Let's take it a step further. Let's just go absolutely insane here, and let's do a Space Jam Roger Rabbit like mixed with
cross this over with
animation.
the animated
We're gonna
one.
bring animated Spider-Verse into this. John Mulaney will be there. Miles will be there.
I mean,
Bold.
honestly, if they did do a live action Spider-Verse, I think it would be really cool to have like animated Miles Morales just show up for like a few seconds.
Yeah. I think the best we could hope for is a cameo. Like, Doctor Strange is there and he's opening up the portals to the different dimensions, and like we've got our 2 other live action Spider-Man are there, and then he opens up a portal and it's like, hey, this one's a bunch of cartoon characters. That's not right. Close that one.
How great would it be if they do a live action Spider-Verse, right? And just in the background of one of the scenes, you see Miles Morales, animated Miles Morales, just pop up, look around, be confused, and then disappear again. And then into the Spider-Verse 2, there's just a sequence
He
where
shows
he
up in live
pops
action.
up, sees the live action version from where he is in a different perspective.
That's actually magical. Yes, I would love that.
That would be awesome.
This is giving me Jimmy Timmy Power Hour vibes.
And that can only be a good thing.
Just make it a mix of live action and animation and just do the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour thing. There's just a weird portal that they walk through and the whole style just switches.
See, the issue with that is, while bringing the live action Spider-Man into animation is easy, bringing the animated Spider-Man into live action is going to be much more difficult.
Yeah.
We need to find lookalikes for them.
It's way better just to have like them be in the background. You just have this animated character superimposed upon the back,
Yeah.
and then just let them kind of be a cameo.
Well, because in the Spider-Verse movie, they also established early on that each dimension does have its own like laws of physics and visual style. Like Gwen's dimension, everything is just weirdly blurry. So like if he goes there and it's just, hey, everything in this dimension's live action, we can just leave it like that and it fits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is I really, really want Spider-Ham to come to live action and have it just be John Mulaney.
I mean, that doesn't make sense, but sure.
But Spider-Ham, like, they retained their art styles from
Yeah.
their other dimensions when they came through the portals.
Yeah, that's
So,
what I'm
like,
saying.
it should still be a two-dimensional Spider-Ham
Yeah.
in this live-action world with the ability to just conjure giant mallet.
Yeah, and anvils and stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the dream. Someday we'll get there.
Are we getting a second Into the Spider-Verse?
We are. It was confirmed a while ago.
Oh, it was confirmed? Thank
Yeah.
goodness.
They put out like a teaser months ago, and then we've heard nothing of it since, for I think obvious reasons.
Because the post-credit inferred that we were going to get more.
Yeah. So they're definitely planning more. It has a lot of other Spider-Man who are teased to be in it, like the Japanese Spider-Man, the Spider-Man from like several different cartoon Spider-Man, Spider-Punk. So yeah, like a lot of different spiders are planned to be in this next one, which I'm excited about. I think it'd be cool if they actually did the comic Spider-Verse storyline, where like these energy vampires show up and they start like kidnapping different spider people from different dimensions. We have to bring everyone together to like fight them off. That'd be great. It's a good storyline, but yeah, it's coming eventually.
So, anyone have any final thoughts on this movie?
It's real good. Can't wait for the third movie to come out. I think we've already talked about that, but hey, it's real good. It's real good. It was a good time to be a Spider-Man fan when this came out, and then when the next one came out. There's been a lot of good Spider-Man media in the past couple of years. The Spider-Man like Insomniac game, the Miles Morales Insomniac game, a lot of good stuff in the comics. So yeah, good time to be a Spider-Man fan.
Yeah, they're really doing good work to that character. You know, really helping make that character shine.
Definitely good to reintroduce him to the MCU and create a more unified story.
I'm glad that they were able to figure out the licensing issues to make that happen.
Did you guys see the Jeff Goldblum interview at like, I think it was D23, when there was like licensing problems and they weren't sure if Tom Holland's Spider-Man was going to get to stay in the MCU, and that was like the big talking point. And like someone at the red carpet like asked Jeff Goldblum about it, and he was like, what's going on? But like in that like typical like Jeff Goldblum way. Like it was, if you haven't seen it, like you have to to look it up. There's no way I could do it justice just talking about it.
I love that Tom Holland called Bob Iger directly, begging him to make a deal
Yeah.
so
Yes.
that they
Yeah.
could stay.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. About the new deal that they have, it is very interesting. So, Sony releases the film in theaters, fairly normal. 9 months later, it streams on Netflix, and then 18 months after that, it streams on Disney Plus. So they're they're temporarily sharing streaming rights.
Interesting. All right. Well, this has been Spider-Man Homecoming, and you've listened to HQ Movie Review Podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Brandon.
Oh, hey, Subscribe to us on iTunes. We're there now.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, thanks for coming, everybody. Good night, and don't read One More Day. It's bad. Seriously, why would the devil even want his marriage?